Welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Erica Holst. I'm the Curator of History here at the Illinois State Museum, and today we're going to talk a little bit about how objects can help us learn more about the past. So what do you think about when you think about historical research? Do you maybe think about looking through books, old newspapers, old documents, photographs? Well, today we're going to find out that objects can tell us just as much as those other things and are an important part of historical research. So we're going to start with this helmet here. And does anyone have any guesses as to when this helmet was used? Someone said World War I. You are absolutely correct. So one of the first things to consider is its overall appearance. We're going to take into account its ornament, what's written on it, which is Corporal Ralph E. Stewart, its shape. One important thing to consider when you're looking at something like a helmet is its form. What's this thing shaped like? Might say it looks almost like a turtle shell. And what's its material? And you can't tell over film, but maybe you can hear that. This is a steel helmet shaped like a turtle shell. So let's think about that. What is the value of the shape of a helmet? So think about what's going on in World War I. You have soldiers in trenches, and this is a new type of battle. Armies used to meet each other across fields of battle. Now you've got soldiers dug in, literally underground. And so the threat to them is coming in from above. You have shells, you have shrapnel, you have things raining down on them. So this form, this turtle shell form, think of it almost like an umbrella. This is something that sits on someone's head and is going to protect them from that incoming threat of danger. Let's also think about this object's ornament. We pointed out that it's been written around the outside, so this tells us a lot of really important information here. This tells us that Corporal Ralph E. Stewart of Battalion E, 72nd Artillery in 1908 from the USA, from Chicago. This tells us everything we need to know about who used this helmet. And then consider this image on it. It almost looks like a tower or some kind of building that's being blown up, and this sort of like abstract, stylized designs on it. So thinking about war and what's going on in war, we can kind of puzzle out, when was this decoration added to the helmet? If I were in your class, I would ask you to raise your hand who thinks that this was done during battle or during active wartime? And who thinks it might have been done before or after? And I'm going to go with the people who raise their hands for before or after, just because wartime can be intense. You're preoccupied with surviving and kind of the nitty-gritty of staying alive. And also, this kind of thing draws attention, and attention is not something you want when you're facing down an enemy with guns. So probably my best guess is that this helmet was actually decorated after the war. And there's something of a sense of almost joyfulness in these kind of abstract, playful designs here, but also a sense of the trauma, the exploding. This is maybe a way to process feelings after the fact. And if we think back to World War I, does anyone think that everyone took an airplane flight over to France to do their fighting? Nope, we're still in the steamship era. So after the war was over, the soldiers would have been loaded aboard big steamships, and they would have been taken back to America, and that's a really long journey. So we can imagine this soldier, Corporal Stewart, on the ship, heading home, feeling very relieved that he survived, and a lot of time on his hands, where he's been at attention, he's been ready, he's been fighting, he's been surviving, and now he's got nothing but downtime to wait, enjoy the ride, looking forward to getting home. So that seems like the time when maybe he decided to kind of work out his feelings, do a little art therapy, personalize his helmet as a memento as he's shifting from being in that active battle mode to making it part of himself, part of his experience, part of a memory that's going to be commemorated by this helmet. So look at all that information we got out of just one object. we're going to turn our attention now to a very ordinary but also very fun object in terms of what it can tell us historically, and that's this old pair of socks. And this pair of socks dates to about 1880. It was worn by a woman named Isabel Hatch. And one thing we consider again is the ornament on an object. So let's look at the ornament. We've got this embroidered design right up the front here. And look at where this ornament occurs. It starts here, it ends about here. So thinking about ladies' fashion in the 1880s, why are you going to ornament the socks right there? Probably because that's what had any chance at all of being seen. This woman's shoes are going to come up to right about here. She's wearing very long skirts, so when she's walking or dancing, perhaps her skirts would have been raised up to see just a little bit here, but if you're looking at this part of the woman's calves, then she is in breach of etiquette because she was not meant to be showing that much leg. So this is the only part that had any chance of being seen, which was why it was decorated. Now let's look at the condition of the socks. So if you look at the toe and at the heel, these socks have been mended and mended again and mended again and mended again. The heels are all dirty. What we can tell from this is someone's favorite pair of socks. This was in heavy rotation, and they put in the effort to keep these socks on a working basis. So that means someone put time and energy into mending. They would have used a tool like this. This is called a darning egg, and a darning egg goes inside the sock, just like this. Put it all the way down to the toe or the heel or whatever you're hoping to mend. And it's actually going to hold the part where the hole is open, and then the darning technique involves basically reweaving the hole. So you're going to do over, over, under, under until you're basically putting the sock back. And like I said, this happened over and over and over again. So from this, just the sock, we can tell that it was worn by a woman who wore long skirts, who had or knew someone who had these darning techniques, who cared enough about the simple pair of socks to keep them in good condition and in active rotation in her wardrobe. And it speaks to an underlying philosophy about clothes, and that it was something that people cared about and invested their time in. This is pre, Walmart or Target or throw something away. This was an era of reuse and repurposing and using until something physically gave out. So again, all that just from one pair of socks. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope you learned a little bit about how looking at objects can help us better understand the past.